The weather for the past week or so has been overcast and rainy, which precludes doing any painting work or any other kind of work that requires the cockpit hatch to be open. It's just going to fill up with rainwater. It's not good. But while I was taking a little bit of a break from the work on the boat, I was perusing some sailing videos of boats that make their home here in the Pacific Northwest, and one of the topics that came up was condensation. The water here is very cold, and in the wintertime, if you have heat inside your boat, condensation becomes an issue. So a lot of the boats here are insulated. This boat has been insulated. The builder of this boat put expanding foam behind the ceiling on the inside of the hull down below, and attempted to put expanding foam in behind the fuel tanks. Did a really shoddy job of it. And I've ripped some of that out. Well, I've ripped all of the insulation out, the expanding foam that was in the fuel tank holds. But then I was thinking about condensation. It is an issue. So I've decided to insulate the fuel tank holes. Even though I've got them painted with bilge coat, they look beautiful. I've decided that I'm going to put in some insulation. So the question is, what insulation do you put inside a boat? So I inquired around at the yacht club and asked other guys what they do for an insulation solution. And one of the guys who does boat repair for a living said, you just need to get that aluminum foil bubble wrap stuff that they wrap around water heaters down at Home Depot. So I went to have a look. Sure enough, it's cheap enough, and it came highly recommended. So I bought myself a roll, and I am going to cut this and contact cement it into place in the fuel tank holes, and hopefully that will serve the purpose. It will insulate the engine compartment and guard against any condensation buildup that could possibly happen. So my job today is to install this. I'm also going to put a little bit of rubber underneath the fuel tanks. The old tanks were resting directly on the fiberglass down below, so any moisture that got into the fuel tank hold was just sitting underneath the fuel tank. So I thought, well, a good way to do that would just be put rubber strips underneath the fuel tank so that the water can drain out. So I'm going to do that too. So today's task involves a lot of contact cement gluing, and I really hope I don't get too high because the stuff's awful. Well, anyways, I thought I would give you a little preview of what I'm working with here, show you the fuel tank holds and how nice they look right now, and I'll do before and after. I'll show you what they look like once I've got the insulation in and the rubber in. So let's go take a look. So here's the starboard side fuel tank hold. You see it's all nice and white and clean and bright. You can actually see what's going on down here. And the port side, it's much the same. Nice and clean, easy to work in, and I hope putting that insulation isn't going to be too much of a problem. Same over here, put the rubber right here. The fitting of the insulation sheet went faster and much easier than I anticipated. It only taken me about half an hour or so to get both sides done, and now I'm ready to glue them in. But let's go take a look first. So there it is. That's the starboard side. Got the tank mount blocks cut out and fit, and the port side. I've gone up as high as I thought was necessary. The water line on the boat is roughly at the bottom here, so that's where the cold will be. But so with the insulation cut and ready to go in, I'm going to put it in. The product I'm using is simply contact cement. The process is to paint both sides, so I'm going to paint the hull over the bilge coat, and I will paint the inside of the insulation. Hopefully that doesn't go too badly. It's a very flexible product, and I don't want to slop glue everywhere, and I don't want to have my brain cells destroyed, so hopefully it goes quickly and easily. We'll see. If the next segment shows me being a little bit out of sorts, you'll know. Let's do it. I had imagined that this particular job was going to be difficult and painful and frustrating, and it hasn't been. It's actually been fairly easy. The only caveat that I would give anybody who is attempting to do what I just did is that if you're using contact cement, you only get one shot at it. You have to have your material cut pretty precisely, and when you put it in, you align it first before you make contact with the other side. Fortunately, I did not screw up. I managed to get it in there, and it's not perfect, but it's going to do the job. Come and have a look. Oh, that's the port side. It's all in there, all glued in nice and tight. And the starboard side, all glued in there, nice and tight. And hopefully it'll be nice and warm. I noticed when I was putting this in that the temperature in the tank hold in the cockpit here went up. It might have just been my imagination, or just from working, whatever, but I did notice. So phase 2 is to get the rubber mat in place. Put the rubber mat here and here, and that'll be it for tank hold prep. Next step will be to put the tanks back in. Woo! It's been a long time coming, but we're getting close. Well, I'm ready to lay down the rubber. I've got it cut, fitted, and glued, and ready to go. Come have a look and see how I did it. So I cut one solid piece of rubber that was that shape, and then I used a 3-inch board to cut the stripes. So I've glued the spaces where the rubber is going to go. I've done it on both sides, and I've got the rubber itself glued up. Now all I have to do is wait the required 15 minutes or so for the glue to set up, and then put them down. And at that point, we will call it done. The fuel tank holes are ready to receive their fuel tanks. I have to do a bit of an accounting of the hardware I need in terms of the hardware, namely the barbs that I need. I've got 3 barbs on the starboard side, 4 on the port side, and I'm using different sizes. For the fuel out, I'm using 3/8, and for the vents, they're 5/8, and the fuel tank fills are 1.5. So I've got most of them, but I need to revisit it because it's been a while since I did that, and I don't think I have absolutely everything, and I have to figure out how I'm going to mount those bits of hardware before I put the tanks in, because if you've watched my previous videos, you know that putting the tanks in is not an easy job, especially not the starboard side. Port side is pretty straightforward, but the other side is beaucoup difficult. So I'm just going to sit here and wait for a couple of minutes, and maybe I'll do an audit on my brain cells. I haven't done a full audit yet, but from what I can see so far, I haven't lost too many brain cells. At least I don't think so. I'll let you know. And there it is. Fuel tank holes are done. Have a look. The rubber's glued in place. Insulation's in place. So now all that's left for me to do is do the audit of the hardware I need, and tomorrow I can go pick that up, and then when I get back here, perhaps we can get one or maybe both tanks installed. Wouldn't that be awesome? We'll see. Stay tuned.